That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are on episode 9 of the Dog and Chicken Show. Tony, did you notice last week when I was going off, I was kind of confused. I was like, was it really episode 8? and then I was like, the dog, and I almost forgot what the name of the show was. Like, I was all sorts out of there last week. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Tonight I am actually able to join you for a beverage myself, and the kids are fed. The wife is enjoying their company, and everybody's happy at the moment, so I couldn't be in a better mood tonight, right? That's all you can ask for. A little Jameson, a little podcasting. What are you enjoying tonight?
I got me some Crown and Coke Zero in my, of course, I don't know which glass I have. Oh, it's one of my nice little South Dakota emblem glasses I got over the holidays this year.
Nice.
Always tasty.
I'm just going neat with the Husker emblem whiskey glass.
Oh, can't go wrong there. Absolutely. So, happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely.
Can, have some time to have some fun and talk about our next topic, and this one should be pretty fun. If folks at home, if you haven't heard of this, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right. I've looked at it a couple different times, but you're gonna hear a bunch of butchering of names and I don't know, maybe a mysterious story, but we're not familiar with Russian names and language and any of that, so
No.
be prepared to be confused on what we're saying. But Dyatlov Pass incident is what we're covering tonight. So,
AKA the Devil's Pass, am I correct?
yes, because it was on what was it? Devil's Mountain or Death Mountain is what the natives called the place. So this was a popular passage through this mountain. So yeah, I think we can go and get it kicked off. Before I tell the story, Tony, anything you're interested in with this, or I know you looked into it before. What are you looking to hear out of this one?
Yeah, this is one I'd looked up a long time ago, inadvertently. It wasn't one I sought out. I think it was just one of those that kind of fell into the category of unsolved paranormal mysteries, and that's one of the big theories that came from this, is because of all of the strange pieces of evidence that came from the deaths. People wanted to classify it as paranormal because of the unique circumstances of how the people were murdered, how they died. It just, a lot of it just screamed paranormal, mostly because at the time, the CSI wasn't a thing at the time, so they didn't really conclude something concrete as to why they perished. So it was a big paranormal thing, and there's a lot of ways you can go with why they think it's paranormal. It could have been a Yeti, it could have been a UFO, it could have been a ghost, it could have been a demon. Yeah, there was so many open-ended theories, and there still are, because if I'm not mistaken, this is still like the original case closed was, well, they died this way, and we don't really know why.
Yeah, I love it. We got Yetis, we got aliens. And a bunch of dead Russians.
Not Yeti. The Russian Yeti. Let's be clear. It's not like Sasquatch came over on a boat. This is the Russian Yeti. Unrelated. Maybe they're related. I don't know. But same type of creature. Let's assume that.
I'm just saying this is like a little orgy for a group of people here. Like,
I don't want to offend the Yeti enthusiasts.
No, I'm just saying there's so much fun stuff here. You got conspiracies, you got paranormal, you got governments, you got dead Russians, you got Yetis, you got aliens. There's so much to look at here.
There's a ton of theories.
Yeah. I just tickled a bunch of people out there. You're welcome. So anyway, I'm going to get started with the story. Here's what happened, if you're not familiar with this. So it originally started 10 hikers, Russian hikers, heading up to, I believe it was called, let's see, what did it say? The mountain is known as Kholat with an H, K-H. So I got to do this. Kholat. Kolat,
like Cool
cycle, which is whatever. Cool Whip, yes. The meaning is dead mountain in the language of the indigenous people of the region, which some funny stories we can get into those indigenous people and how they did drugs. Funny story. We'll get to that. But anyway, very treacherous mountain range, but also very popular with thrill seekers and skiers and mountain climbers. So this group of 10 departed in January, and back then, I'm trying to remember what year this is, like 1959.
I would say late 50s.
Yeah, 1959. So in 1959, of course, no cell phones. Very like when you went out into a mountain. Good luck. What day you coming? What day you coming back? Well, how many weeks from now?
And let's be clear, though, these weren't like just your amateur thrill seeker. Like, I believe they were experienced at this type of hike, if you will. They'd done things of this nature before, so they weren't going out completely unprepared. They had the equipment, they had the experience. So yeah, it wasn't like just a bunch of random people decided to do this, and that's why they died.
Correct. And they were pretty young. Most of them were in their young 20s, but they were pretty experienced at this, and you're absolutely correct. But the point I was making was back then it was hey, we're coming back around this time. So if I left January 31st and I said I'd be back February 12th, you're going to give me a few days or a week before you come looking for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, time's not on your side when you're in a mountain that's known for its brutal cold. Negative 30-degree temperatures.
Yeah.
Is what these folks were dealing with.
Insane. Ugh, can't imagine. It just makes me cold thinking about it.
So that's exactly what happened. These folks went off onto this mountain pass and trying to climb. One of them felt ill partway through the trip and decided to stay back. So there was originally 10 on this journey, and he decided he wasn't going to finish out with them, stayed behind at a base camp while the other 9 went on. The original plan was they would be back February 12th. And come February 20th, none had returned. By that time, that's when they finally got worried. You think, okay, 8 days later, whatever. That's what it was. It's Russia. You better be tough. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
So 8 days later, they go create a search party and start climbing up this mountain trying to figure out what happened to these guys.
And the one that had backed out, he went with them, correct?
Correct. Yes. So they found some pretty astonishing... I don't know. There was a lot of things that did not make sense. So the basic story, some experienced kids, hikers, early 20s, go up a mountain, having a good time. They actually kept a journal of every day of the trip and everything they did. They called it like a little newspaper is how they treated it. And somewhere around February 1st or February 2nd is when they think something crazy happened. The search rescue crew went out on the 20th. And it was later that week they discovered not only their tent, and then shortly after they found one group of the expedition died apparently from hypothermia. The original, or for 6 of them, and then I believe it was 2 months later, around May, they found the remaining 3.
Yep.
Cause of death. Tony, do you remember what the official cause of death was? I thought it was funny.
Of the other 3 that they found later, it wasn't. Did they classify it as hypothermia, or was it the blunt force trauma to those 3?
Well, so that was. I'm trying to find it here. I don't see it. It was something so vague.
Or was it the
ridiculous?
One of those, I believe, was the blood in the. They thought maybe she'd bled out internally, because I think that was the female.
Well, yeah, it was. Well, the actual cause of death, though, like for the first 6 was hypothermia. For the other 3, they chalked it up as something along the lines, and I'm sure I'll find it here, but something along the lines of natural forces that
unnatural.
They couldn't. No, it said natural forces they could not overcome.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yep. That you're right. That's exactly what it was, and that's basically how they.
What the hell kind of report is that? What the
That's
hell does
what
that mean?
I think that line right there is one of the big reasons people believe that this was like an inside government conspiracy, because how do you close the case with such a vague description and give the cause of death such a vague, open-ended answer? That adds credence to that theory, I guess, but I think it mostly just comes down to the fact that they didn't have anybody who really knew what the hell they were doing as far as crime scene investigation goes. Yeah, okay, so I want to point out one thing right now. When you say the word tent, people immediately get the image of a camping tent that you would take to the lake in their head. That is not what this is. This is like a big military thick grade tent. It's big, it's thick, it's meant to withstand the harsh environments. So when we start talking about the strange things that happened, keep in mind that this is a heavy-duty tent. You can live in this thing. It's not just meant to go pass out in after you drink a 12-pack at the lake. It's not that kind of tent.
Yeah, exactly. So for those just listening in, of course, doing this on YouTube and other platforms now. So for those of you listening, we got it pulled up on the screen, one of the images that it shows of what the rescuers found on February 26th. If you want to see this, of course, you can jump on our YouTube channel. But allthat'sinteresting.com is where I'm pulling some of these images from. And what you see is a tent pretty much knocked down, covered in snow. So what they discovered happened with this tent was it was cut by the hikers from the inside. So something frightened them or caused them that they had to get out of this tent so badly they are willing to destroy it from within to get out of the tent. And then
thus ruining their shelter and essentially sealing their fate with the hypothermia.
Absolutely. But then that was the freaky part is the first group of bodies they found were a mile down mountain from this tent, in probably where they should have put the tent. You think about if you're going up a mountain pass, do you want to be near a tree line just in case there's an avalanche, or do you want to be out in the middle of nowhere in the wide open where God and everybody can just trample over the top of you? Typically, you would want to be near a tree line where you have resources, whether that's animals to eat or twigs to burn and things to make fire. These guys were a mile up the mountain and decided to pitch tent there, which was the first kind of weird thing. The second is cutting the tent open from within. But then when they find their bodies, not only did they find their bodies a mile down mountain, they were nearly naked. Two of the first bodies they found were in their underwear with no shoes, dead in the snow of hypothermia.
Yeah,
what on God's earth would make you cut a hole in your tent, run a mile in negative 30-degree weather in the snow, naked?
I have an explanation for that, but let's run through all the strange pieces of evidence before we start giving our thought on why these events went the way they did. I know one of the other, I can't remember which set, was it a part of the pair or a part of the three-person? Because I think it was the same woman was missing a portion of her tongue.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's on the second group.
Okay, and then also I think, was it two people had unnatural head trauma, skull crushed in via a force that could not have been done by another person.
That's correct. So this starts to get a little bit more interesting as Tony was leading to there. So these were the first two bodies discovered. So they found
clearly not wearing anything ready for the elements.
Right. So these ads are so weird that I'm getting on here. For those watching at home, sorry. So the first two bodies were Yuri Krivanashenko, he was 23, and another Yuri, there's two Yuris here, and I believe the guy left at the bottom, the 10th guy, his name was Yuri too, so hey, fun fact, there's 3 Yuris. How many people in Russia are named Yuri?
I feel like it's a John or a Tim.
Anyway, So here it shows negative 13, 22-degree temperatures, whatever. Maybe we're a little off there. Anyway, both men's bodies were found only wearing underwear. So this is an actual image from the bodies found. Of course, the snow's a little trampled around them, probably from the folks that had found them originally. But crazy enough, and you kind of get a feel for, you know, the weather conditions that they had there. But then you look at the surroundings and how much snow may have collected around them. It's hard to really get specific. So anyway, those two, hypothermia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
clearly.
they're almost naked. That's weird, but hypothermia. Yuri and Yuri, rest in peace. Then they found the next three bodies. So Dyatlov, which is he was the leader of the expedition and who this is named after, Rustam Slobodin, 23, they were found on their way back to the camp. So apparently they were at the bottom. I believe there was evidence of a campfire nearby, and then these two were trying to make their way back to the campfire at that point. You can see, almost looks like the images shows one's kind of wrapped up in a tree and deceased, obviously, and the other one almost looks like he was crawling minutes before passing away. So pretty tragic thought of that type of weather scenario and what kind of circumstances you might have to be in to die that way. It's kind of crazy to think about. So and then we got another image here of Dyatlov and laying down face first in the snow. So circumstances, of course, in this case, it caused a lot of speculation. But immediately they only found these original bodies, and everybody was just, hey, hypothermia. The kids got out of their tent. Whatever happened, but they got down to the bottom of this base and got to this tree line, tried to make a fire. Two of them passed away. It looks like the rest of them decided maybe it's best we get back to base camp, and died of hypothermia on their way back to base camp. You think it's a mild jaunt with negative 10, negative 20, and plus the wind chill that you have. The elements are just outrageous. So the original 6, all confirmed, dead from hypothermia, and not much of a chance of survival. Where it gets crazy,
yes,
the final 3. So you have Nikolaya. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name.
Just Nikolai.
Yeah, no, it might be. I don't know. Suffered significant skull damage in moments before his death. Then Lyudmila Dobinina, 20, and Semyon Zolotarev, 38, had major chest fractures that could only have been caused by an immense force comparable to that of a car crash.
Yep.
The funny part about this, not funny, weird part, so they have severe damage internally in their bodies. But the report comes out saying that there is no soft tissue damage on the exterior of their body other than what was caused post-mortem.
Right.
So that meaning they have broken ribs and fractured skulls, but there is no evidence of blunt force trauma on the outside of the body. There's no evidence of the chest being crushed by, say, a bear or something, attacking them post-mortem that would cause some of that stuff. Of course, there's probably going to be some animals and things trying to eat away at him. Then the craziest one, and probably the one that causes, those two are creepy enough. The last one was the gal, Lyudmila Dubidina. I've said her name 2 different ways now. Whatever. She was found laying almost in a ravine or a river type thing up against a rock. Her eyes are missing. Her tongue is missing. Half her jaw is gone. Again, from what I've read, there was no evidence of you think, okay, there's a dead body laying there for 2 months. Sure. I'm sure a vulture or some other animal will come and tear it apart. But there was no evidence of an animal. You think if you're going to rip tongue or eyes out, they're going to grab a hold of some other part to get leverage. There was no evidence of that. And I've read where they thought maybe her tongue had just dissolved on its own. I've also read where that they believe her tongue was removed before death. Don't know. The problem with this is this was covered up immediately, and I don't know if it was necessarily cover up. It was back in the days of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, back then, anything that came out that had to do with anything kind of crazy, weird, immediately got classified, and nobody got to talk about it. And boom, case closed, move on. Of course, fall of the Soviet Union, 90s, this stuff comes up, and they start digging through this file, and it's missing tons of information. So we are at the mercy of the internet, folks, and what little records they have, and the wonderful world of conspiracy thoughts and people trying to put two and two together. The last thing, Tony, before I hand it over to you, was about 50 miles away around that same time. There's no confirmation, but there are reports that other hikers experienced strange lights in the skies.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
And then with that being said, the last image, so these hikers, they were fairly wealthy young group of folks and were having fun with this. Like I said, creating a newspaper. They were also taking so many pictures. This is probably I don't get too excited about this, but a lot of people have. So for the folks just listening, it is one of those amazing orb pictures. So Tony and I, from the world of paranormal investigation, I've seen these pictures so many times, and it just pisses me off.
That's the same one I saw on the videos that I was watching.
So anyway, the belief is, so his tripod was Krivonishenko's camera. Supposedly his tripod was set up and pointed in a direction that appeared they were trying to capture something on their camera. Now, he was one of the ones that was found naked, but so he doesn't grab his shoes, he doesn't grab his clothes, he doesn't grab anything, but he did grab his camera as he runs a mile downhill.
Yeah, that's strange.
This is the last photo taken on his camera. We don't know what this is of, but neighboring other groups that were hiking 50 miles away saw strange lights in the sky and reported them. So that sets you up, folks, for a lot of different thoughts of how did those last three die? Why were the first two naked? What happened here? Tony, thoughts?
Well, before I jump into the multiple theories, you're forgetting one odd piece of information, or evidence, if you will, and that is that a few of them had some level trace amounts of radiation found on their bodies.
Yes. Damn it, I forgot about that. That brings in the government conspiracy, folks. Sorry.
No, yeah. that brings
two of
in
them,
the
but
alien.
it was only two of them on their clothes.
Yes.
Only two. That strikes me as pretty odd.
Yeah. Like you said, you take all the information that we're given from this case, and it's missing gaps, missing pieces. We don't know a lot of vital information, but what we're given is so unrelated, so strange, and the way they were found is so odd that it leaves so much up to the imagination as far as what happened, how did they get to this point. Obviously, you just touched on it. One of the first theories would be government conspiracy cover-up, right? Obviously, people here are thinking there's foul play because A, we're missing all this information. B, there's so strange circumstances on how this person ended up in this position, why they were naked, so on and so forth. Why everything just kind of came to an abrupt halt, why they tried to get out of the tent. So many reasons of why you could point to that and the weird way that they closed the case without really saying a verdict on what happened. Understandable, like you said, it's Russia, late 50s, so it's a very plausible theory. But I guess, for me, I don't know enough about the individuals. Is there one or a few among them that would there be a reason to off them in this way? Because I think this is a pretty lengthy way to go about assassinating somebody. I think there's easier ways. So that, for me, I kind of write that off personally. Touching on the radiation, though, people want to use that and the strange lights seen by other witness accounts as was this paranormal to the UFO aliens. That one's even further out of reach for me, I guess. Like, because you show that picture, and to me, that could just simply be a picture of the moon out of focus. That's my thought. It could be so many things. I don't think that's proof of anything. Yeah, it's weird that that's the last picture on his camera, but there's no evidence of a large spacecraft landing anywhere. There, radiation is the only thing other than the weird accounts of lights. And I'm just going to be frank about the lights. It's Russia. You're talking 1959, right? There could be a bunch of weird stuff whizzing around the sky that people don't know about that's part of the military at that time. So that doesn't do anything for me. I think the UFO thing's about the biggest reach. The radiation doesn't do it for me there, because I think the two that it was found on, if I'm not mistaken, it was a very, very low level of radiation. And the clothing of these two people, I believe they worked in a field that they interacted with something radioactive. So I think that there's a case to be said that it came from their line of work at some point, and there was still a trace amount from whatever job they'd had. The next one, I guess, if we're going to go on the batshit crazy side and say it's one of the more plausible paranormal ideas, would be the Yeti. I don't know enough about the Russian Yeti. Obviously it's a big, burly monster of a creature. They're attributing that idea as to what caused the skull fractures and the placement of the bodies. It carried them here, it bit out the tongue, it took out the eyes, so on and so forth. This unnatural, strong creature, stronger than a normal human being. That's what caused all these problems. That's what killed them. The low levels of radioactivity found on the clothing of a couple of these people, that opens the door for so many weird theories in the way that these people were found. Having low levels of radioactivity on their clothing is weird enough, and then obviously the tongue being bitten off or cut off, a piece of tongue is missing. So the first theory, let's start off with the government conspiracy cover-up. Obviously, you said that a couple of them at least were wealthy-ish, right? So maybe not are they important enough to assassinate in such an elaborate manner, because this would be a very high-level type cover-up that involves a lot of extra steps. Personally, I think that I don't think that you need to go to these lengths to assassinate somebody. I think that there's much easier ways to do it, especially in that time. Way easier to cover up. So I kind of throw that out personally. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's an assassination. I mean, so there were talks. These kids had the journals and daily newspaper thing, like I was saying. And there was a lot of people wondering, was there a romantic relationship which caused, some chaos in the midst? But it seemed like they were all pretty open. They're all really friendly. There was a little flirtation. But again, they're kids. The oldest one was 38. The youngest was 20. Yeah. Like, I don't see a whole lot of threat in a group of these folks that are going out to have a little bit of fun. Who knows though? Maybe one of them's a spoiled rich kid like we have these days, and it just pissed somebody off. I don't know.
Right. And yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know how important these people were to would there be one important enough that the government decided they needed to take care of. So I don't know, that one. I think it's too many extra steps because there's a better way to go about it, I guess, is my thought. The next theory, touching again on the radiation being strange, because it is a strange piece of evidence, it also takes into account the strange lights seen by other first-hand witnesses. That picture that you show of the odd light, I think almost to me it kind of looks like an out of focus shot of the moon. It might not be. It could be anything. It's a very hard picture to depict what's going on, and let's just be frank. Like, yeah, there you go. I can't see anything more than a blurry light source and a reflection there. So,
and maybe a pubic hair on the camera lens.
it's a little weird spot there in the bottom. I throw this out because this is 1959 Russia. The military probably has testing weapons, aerial stuff that people don't know about. So that's easily explained to me. I think that there's probably enough stuff in the sky that the military's trying out that's easily explainable. I don't think that is proof of an alien encounter. There's no proof of any big spaceship landing anywhere near, but how do you prove that anyway? It's snow. I get it. I think that's probably the most outlandish theory, would be UFO aliens. I don't see it. It just doesn't seem to hold any water.
Yeah, I don't think it holds any water either. Like, but who knows? We don't. I don't know. Listen to Bob Lazar. I don't know. Anyway,
it's a weird theory. I mean, it
is. I think I've heard alternate theories to this of not necessarily being alien, but more government experiment type thing to where,
sure.
What do you think is going to cause 9 people to freak out and jump out and cut a hole from the inside? So there's theories of government weapons that cause delirious actions, whether that's certain frequency waves and sounds, or what if they were just testing bombs overhead?
Sure.
And scare the hell out of me. This is a group of folks not only coming out of World War II. Granted, we're probably not near the height of the Cold War by any means, but I'm sure they're young enough to remember the scariness of the world back in the mid to late 40s. They're all old enough to have been around for that, or at least grew up with it. And you start hearing, government bombs or crazy, experimental weapons being blown up in the sky right above you, and maybe even feeling shock waves or shrapnel or, God knows what's going on. And what do they think? It's pitch black at night. It's in the middle of nowhere. They're a mile away from a tree line to where they might be able to find safety. What do you do?
Well, yeah, that's just it. That's one of those big portions of it. Like, why did they leave their tent? Why did they get out of the tent? Why did they leave? Why did they go in separate directions and split up? It's weird. And that leads into another of the theories, of course, being the Russian Yeti idea. Did some big, supernatural, strong monster creature come and cause the blunt force trauma, skull fractures, tongue chunk bitten off, rib cages being broken, because they said it could not have been done by another person. So was it a super strong being that did this and then carried them off and put them in different places and strange places? Is that why they were split up? I don't know enough about the Russian Yeti, I guess. I just...
It sounds like another Yeti. That's enough for me.
Well, I think the Yeti is such an easy cop-out for something like this. Because it's one of those urban legend, folklore tales, and since the evidence being presented is so vague and so little concrete information given, it's easy to say, well, clearly it's the Russian Yeti. Let's just get the hell out of here and chalk this one up to monster.
Right.
I don't know.
So
I don't think so.
My problem with the Yeti theory is they were clear back in the 50s during the report of this that there was no soft tissue damage outside of postmortem. There was no evidence that any of this happened. That's why they contributed it to a thought of a car crash. That you had to have been internally damaged due to almost like moving 30 mile an hour up and then hitting a wall type damage. That's how your bones got broken, not somebody hit you or a Yeti smacked you across the forest. Like that one doesn't hold weight at all to me. If I get hit by a Yeti, man, my head will be ripped off first off if a Yetis are what they say they are. But I would have some external damages, and it would be pretty obvious that I got hit by something. Like that's what throws me off on the whole Yeti thing. Plus, hey, Bigfoot's not real. Sorry, folks.
Wow, way to offend a big chunk of our listening audience.
I'm trying to get my second dislike.
You're on the way. The one I want to touch on here now, theory-wise, is more interesting because if you want to go crazy theory, holding water, I think the demonic possession theory holds more water than most of these because of the weird ritualistic style evidence being found. No clothes, chunk of tongue missing, people getting their heads smashed in. They escaped the tent from something within. Did somebody get possessed or go crazy inside the tent and they had to cut their way out to get out? That, to me, would be, if you want to put on the tinfoil hat, that would be the most legitimate of crazy theories of all of them, in my opinion.
So with that, there is explanations for that specific instance when you're finding people with hypothermia with their clothes being ripped off.
Yes.
So this is something that happens. I believe the stats were like 20 to 30% of hypothermia victims fall into this. They call it paradoxal undressing. So what this is in a nutshell, I am no scientist. I am just some dummy out in the middle of nowhere in America. Pretty much, you get so cold, your body goes, I want warmth, to the point where it says, to hell with it, I'm going to make you feel like you're warm, and you lose your freaking mind. So what your
body feels like you're burning.
Yeah, so you rip your clothes off trying to cool off at that point, which obviously is counterintuitive to what you're trying to do to survive.
Exactly.
But your body goes into panic mode. It doesn't know what else to do.
And that's the exact reason why these people were found like that. What made them leave the tent originally without the rest of their gear? Were they already in a state of hypothermia? They're coming out of the tent, so they shouldn't be at that point, which is weird. But they leave the tent without the clothes. So that doesn't quite sync up timeline-wise for what little bit of information we have for timeline.
Yeah, correct. And there are a couple other thoughts on the clothes, because the ones that were climbing back up to base camp, and even the ones that were unexplained deaths that they couldn't determine was hypothermia, some of the clothes they obviously had layered on and may have taken some of those of the clothing from those folks. So I don't know if they died in their underwear, but they definitely didn't have shoes, and there was not enough sets of shoes. Yeah. But they did rob them of some of their clothes probably after they died. Sorry, T, if you're dead of hypothermia in front of me and I'm cold as hell, I'm taking your shoes. I'm taking everything. I'll be nice. I'll leave you your undies, your tidy whities. You can keep them on, brother.
Appreciate that. I'll keep that in mind. That's the weird one. So let's just discuss what we actually think happened, because it's not UFO, it's not government, it's not demonic. Is it Yeti? No, it's not Yeti. I think it's not possible to explain it all, because we are missing so much information. But we can kind of give our thoughts on what we personally think happened. So why don't you
before we get into that, there's some that I may have missed the radiation, but you missed the indigenous Mansi people or Mansai people.
Oh, that's right. Yep. I forgot about that.
That's where I get to tell my little funny story of how these guys do drugs. God, I gotta have a segue into this. Just make my own, damn it. Anyway,
hashtag segue.
Yeah, hashtag segue. So anyway, the Mansi people, or Mansi, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So they are an indigenous tribe in the area. They have often been feared by hikers and people coming through the area, because they are known to be pretty brutal and not, well, they don't put up with your shit, and they believe they have some pretty strict beliefs, but I'll just get into one of the crazy things. I'm just going to get right to the funny part of it.
Okay, that's good. I like it.
Magic mushrooms.
Yes!
The magic mushrooms that they have in this specific area, and these people could not consume them because they are poisonous. However, they do have psychedelic compounds in them. So if they wanted to do magic mushrooms, they would die. So These people are crazy enough to figure out not only can I have these magic mushrooms, get high, and not die, but that the only way you could do it is to filter it through a reindeer and drink the reindeer's piss.
That is impressive way to filter something.
So, now do we want to continue talking about this story, or do we want to talk about how do you figure out that a reindeer can filter toxins out so you can have psychedelic piss?
Man, that I would love to hear the original story as to how somebody originally found that bit of information out. I mean, I understand you're probably limited on to what flora and fauna you have around, but your wildlife, you have a reindeer. You know, you sit there and go, you know, I bet if we ran some drugs through their system and drank their piss, I would get balls messed up. Let's do this, homie. It sounds like a frat story. That does not sound like an indigenous tribe finding a new way to do a ritual. That sounds like a bunch of guys with no cash on a weekend trying to find the easiest way to get a buzz. That's what that sounds like. And one takes a chem lab class.
Right. So anyway, back to the Manzi people, and you try to get back on a serious note. Thought I had to share that little piece of info with
That's
you
awesome. I there's a little bit of me that kind of wishes I would have tried that back in the day.
Yeah. So some people had questioned maybe the indigenous tribe here. So if you're not familiar with the indigenous tribe here, and they came from the time of the Mongols in Western Siberia, and they were one of the original South Ural steppe people. So these folks were not to be messed with. They lived off the land and knew what they were doing. And if you want to be out in the middle of the mountains or in the middle of the forest and you know try to scale the mountain and ski down it, don't run into these folks. They're probably hungry, and you look kind of fatty as an American or a Russian at this time. You'll definitely look a little scrumptious to them. I don't know if they were actually cannibals or not, but I'm just kind of rolling with it at this point. I think the crown's starting to hit in a little bit, so I'm rambling.
Yeah, I agree. It's an idea, it's a portion of it, but I don't think that has much to do with what happened here in this particular case.
Yeah. So back to our thoughts. What did actually happen to these people? I mean, we only talked about a few of the possible explanations to how these folks died. We maybe 5 or 6 possible scenarios here. There's tons. You go look this up. It's all over the internet of so many different thought processes of who killed them, how they died, and it gets ridiculous. Some of them are really, really cool thought processes. The big ones that really stand out, though, is avalanche. No, I don't think it was an avalanche. You look at the pictures right after the bodies were found. There's no debris from trees. There's no huge mountains of snow covering some of these folks. Like, really don't think the avalanche piece. Once again, I'm just some dumb guy out in the middle of nowhere, but looking at the pictures, reading on a few articles, I don't see the evidence for it. There's another one, katabatic wind. I don't know a lot about that one. Infrasound, I mentioned that one earlier.
Yes.
Military tests, I mentioned that one.
Yep.
Paradoxal undressing, we kind of talked about that. The rest is pseudoscience, and God knows. Tony, do you know anything about the katabatic wind?
No, I guess I heard the term a couple of times when I was watching videos researching the topic, but no, I don't know enough about it, but I think that more than anything, it would... I guess I don't know how strong it is, but could that explain some of the placement of the bodies, and could that be a big part of the infrasound? The reverberation is something we probably talked about before. Infrasound can hit at a specific decibel that can actually make people hallucinate and get sick and have dizziness, so on and so forth. Did that lend credence to one of the ideas of the demonic possessing? Somebody went crazy. Somebody thought they were being murdered or attacked by the other ones, and that's why they had to get out of the tent. I think that there is a case for the infrasound idea, but I don't know if that goes hand in hand with that idea. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Like you said, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. So the infrasound is interesting, and that's where we're talking. Is that combined with a military test? The katabatic wind. This is one that I'm not familiar with, as you're kind of running through there, I started reading. It's a rare event that can be extremely violent, and they found this in Sweden, in the mountains. So there was 8 hikers perished in 1978 after a katabatic wind. Very similar topography and similar expedition. So what it does, it really doesn't explain a ton on what I'm reading here, but it does explain where this could possibly fall into it. So it would have made it impossible for them to remain in the tent. And so the most rational course of action for the hikers would be to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter in the tree line. So as you see in the image, it was cut open, knocked down, covered with snow so it wouldn't blow away, and then they could come back to it later and set up. So apparently this is a pretty crazy wind event, and they would not have a lot of time to respond. Again, I don't know much about this. There was also a flashlight left turned on top of the tent. Possibly that was left there intentionally so the hikers could find their way back once the wind subsides. So maybe this was a crazy, crazy wind event that caused a lot of this. I don't know.
Okay, no, that actually that makes a lot of sense. I think that definitely leads to a lot of information we probably didn't have before. What information do we have about those in 1959? That's the question. I'm sure they didn't have much. So, yeah, especially if the flashlight was left turned on, that's definitely a way to retrace your steps, find where your base camp was. That's 100% what that had to be, clearly. What, I guess, if there's no other things we really, really need to touch on, what do you think happened?
So I do like the wind event theory a little bit. I think there's a lot
now that you explained that. I like that.
Right. But I still think there's a lot of things at play here. I think so. It wasn't starvation. These folks were 6 to 8 hours since their last meal. I don't really think there's evidence for an avalanche. The wind and the weather probably does play a factor in some of this. I don't want to rule out, you got radiation there. That's got to be explained somehow. I
think that's because of their jobs. I'm pretty sure that one or two of them
could be.
It had to be part of it, right? It's the only thing that makes sense, unless, like you said, military testing.
So the part with anytime anybody's like radioactive, and we talked about it last week with the dude with the uranium rod. There's legal limits that you can buy on Amazon, folks. Like,
yeah, it's not crazy. It sounds crazy, but it's not out of the realm of natural.
To the everyday person, we're like, what? You can buy uranium? Yeah, you can.
Turns out. Who knew?
Turns out you sure can. So I don't know. I don't want to ever rule out, especially with the Soviet government back then. You never know what they were doing. They were up to some crazy things, admittedly, back then. Either way, I think most of it was natural. I think the wind idea, along with probably the paradoxical undressing, I really think that makes a ton of sense with that piece of it. The part that freaks me out and that I just can't wrap my head around is the remaining 3 and the internal injuries. And
sure.
And honestly, we're never gonna know what really happened in that. So that's what makes this one so attractive to not only speculatory thoughts and people wanting to dig into it and come up with new theories and new thoughts. Entertaining, love it, want to hear them, but you know what? Never gonna know, never gonna be able to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's unfortunately happened to these nine folks, but man, Like it's those three. The other six, sure, they the wind, weather, paradoxical undressing, crazy events. I think the other three probably survived the weather and all the craziness. But what happened to those three at the end? That's the real mystery. The
Okay.
first six died naturally.
Sure.
The last three, couldn't tell you, man. That's the real unsolved mystery here.
Yeah, I think you're right. It definitely is. Those three are the most unique and strange, unexplainable portions of this case. I'll give you just kind of a idea of what I think happened. I think you're 100% right. I think the paradoxical undressing, because of the hypothermia, there's no way to deny that. It got so damn cold. I guarantee most of them had hypothermia and started undressing because they feel incredibly hot. That's what your body does. You feel hot, you take off your clothes. You're not thinking rationally because you're going through this trauma. You start doing things that are unnatural. So maybe they already had low set, early on stages of hypothermia. That's why they left behind their clothes, or they didn't have enough time to get out of the tent. Here's what my idea, like the tent thing throws so many people for a loop because they tried to get out from the inside by stabbing the tent. That's crazy, right? Why would you destroy your shelter? There is a theory on what happened there. There's a picture, I'm sure it's not on the site you're looking at, but there's a picture of, I assume, the guy that owns the tent. You can see his big heavy coat, and his sleeve is completely charred up from burning fire of some sort. If you look at pictures of the tent, when it is not, stuffed down with snow, there is a chimney coming out of it. Like I said, this is a big, heavy-duty tent. They had a stove in there. Theory is they put the stove out. Some of the cinders reignited, and their tent filled with smoke. And in an effort to vent the smoke out, they stabbed the tent to get rid of the smoke. Once that did not work, they had to vacate the tent. At that point was that unnatural wind happening. So they did what they could. They did what they could quickly. Then they tried to get to the trees, like you said. I think it's insane that they were split up the way they were. Like, that's rule of survival. You don't split up in a big group like that. You stay together. So, the three that were, like, the others that are found here and here, died of hypothermia, had their campfire, they died. They didn't make it back. The three that are so strange, the fact that there's no soft tissue bruising, that's incredibly strange. I don't know enough about it, but would the harsh levels of cold explain that? If they're covered in snow, if their bodies are covered with snow, does that prevent the major bruising of the internal injuries that they had? I assume it would. I don't know enough about it, post-mortem or not. I think that would have a lot to do with it. You're ruling out the avalanche theory. But I saw somebody else mention on another video that there's what's known as a miniature avalanche, and it would be a lot less likely that you would see traces of it 2 weeks later, or a week later. And I believe those three, were they found under like 3 foot of snow? Is that not right?
I can't remember how many. There was some covered under a significant amount of snow. I don't remember how much it was. Sure. But then again, this is a week later, almost 10 days later before the bodies are found.
So is that just snowfall, or did that...
Is that snowfall, or is it the wind that's causing the drift?
Exactly. And that we can't tell. So a miniature avalanche wouldn't be one that would be charted. It wouldn't be one that was noticed by everybody. It could be small enough that it wasn't noticed, but it could be big enough to sweep 3 people away down into a ravine. She hits, bites off her own tongue, or a chunk of it. Her internal organs fill up with blood, because it was a small amount of blood. It wasn't like she was just balls-to-the-wall blood. It was a small amount, mixed with some other stuff that was already in her stomach. That's why they say that. She bites off her tongue. The skull fractures can be explained by their bodies crashing off of things, hitting rocks. The broken ribs, same thing. I think a miniature avalanche there's the chimney. There you can see that. But I think a miniature avalanche explains why those three were carried off and put in a weird spot, and explains what happened to them injury-wise. Plus, with there you go, the chimney explains why they had to escape the tent from the inside. So I think it's a couple ideas. I think the wind, I think the chimney, and I think a miniature avalanche explain most of what happened here. And obviously the hypothermia being the big factor here.
Yeah, I just had to show a picture of the reindeer there. Sorry. No, it's possible. I like that thought process. I think it's more natural than any of us ever want to admit, just like the 1.5 million people trying to run into Area 51.
Yeah, what's the number up to?
1.5 million, at least. Maybe more now. That was like 3 days ago when I looked. And Chuck Norris, I haven't confirmed if this was actually on his Facebook account or not, but somebody had posted, Chuck Norris is in. So the element of surprise, Tony, you mentioned Chuck Norris, the rules.
Well, I like to feel like I'm responsible for Chuck Norris being in now, if he is indeed going. Yeah, that's...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad Chuck's getting back in the game. Starting at the top, taking down those Area 51 bastards.
Bastards.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, that kind of wraps up our thoughts on this. It's an incredibly interesting unsolved mystery. It's a product of the time, with all the misinformation and lack of information and open-endedness. It's just a product of the time and circumstances, and yeah, we're never going to know. This was 60 years ago. And you're in an element, in an area where there's no way to go back and look now. It's open, shut, closed. We're never going to know what happened there.
So the best part, T, is the government officially reopened the investigation to this February 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're at with it.
They're not going to get anywhere. I mean, how do you go back 60 years later and add concrete information now unless they already had it?
Yeah.
Reopening the idea of government conspiracy cover-up. So I'm sure we'll be talking about this again in a year.
Fake news.
Fake news. Hashtag fake news.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we got through that one. There was a lot, and man, I know we didn't hit on everything.
No,
it's
impossible to.
We didn't even come close. There was, things we didn't even talk about, the burn marks on the hands. We didn't talk about the blood in the trees and them trying to climb trees. There's so many different ways to go with this. We could have taken up 3 hours, but
yeah,
I think what we want to do is get through of the stupidity of the picture with the balls and the orbs and the pubic hair.
No orbs. No. Just no.
It's just shut up. Yeah. But then I don't know. It's a story that I don't think a lot of people have heard, and it is creepy. It is freaky, and that one, out of all the stories that I've heard, that one probably has more allure to it. And what happened to those last three? How did they get the internal injuries? Now, I'm Tony. You're not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. Does the cold mess with you? Does the snow push down and crack your bones and not cause external injuries? I don't know. Like, I could imagine a world where that works. Like, but I'm stupid, so I don't know, man. I like to watch UFC fights and see people get the shit kicked out of each other. So I'm a barbarian, man. Like, that's where I'm at.
I guess, a couple of questions I guess you and I have. Let's ask a couple people. Maybe somebody listening in can give us some insight onto that. But that kind of wraps up this story. I like it. It's an interesting one. It's an unsolved mystery still to this day, and maybe we'll find out some new information on it here in the coming months. Who knows? But all that being said, what do we got going on in the world, man? What do you got for us?
Oh, well, like I said, we're up to 1.5 million on September 20th that are wanting to storm Area 51. And I know I stumbled through it last week a little bit because I just couldn't find the words of what could, at that time it was 500,000 people, by the way, 500,000 people. And I'm like, you could do something better with your goddamn time. Like, why are you gonna go to this place? Like, and I couldn't come up with the words on what to go and what to do, and I was just like, pick a topic, I don't care. Now people are doing that, and they're like, hey, if 1.5 million people would like to go and storm this, how about like maybe you go and storm, you know, who do you hate? Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. Like, if you're going to do it, make it worthwhile. If you're going to die for a cause and you want to find information, do it to people that don't suspect it to happen. Don't tell them you're coming on the 20th.
That's the idea.
Don't do it on Facebook, jackass.
No, yeah, we touched on all that. 1.5 million people. Now, of course, the bigger and bigger that this story gets, the more and more people that go to it and click that they're going there. So, yeah, those extra million now, most of those are bullshit now, too. So the numbers are becoming to get even more and more deflated. Where do we go from here? Like, we're a ways off from September 20th. What, 2 months away? What's going to happen in those 2 months on the causes side, but also Area 51 on the government side? Like, what are they doing in preparation for this? Because you know they're not sitting idly by, because they know the same thing. Even we have to that. When this thing opens up, and we're going to want access. Uh-oh. So what are they going to do?
So I don't know what they're going to do. What I've seen, Tony, is what is Roswell, the city, going to do? I've seen advertisements already. I've started seeing things popping up on Facebook. I've started seeing all kinds of, hey, come visit Roswell. Come see us at Roswell. That tourist destination is going to go insane. That city is going to be more popular now with this event on September 20th than probably they have. You know, Roswell's got the name and fame, and people come there already and spend tons of money there already. Imagine the amount of people that are going to walk or drive into Roswell, New Mexico on September 20th. They're going to be all over this. There's going to be so much merch. There's so much money to be made off of these 1.5 million dipshits that are coming to Roswell. Well, coming to Area 51, but they're going to go to Roswell. They're going to make the money.
So I kind of want to look up here. What's the distance between Roswell and Area 51? I'm kind of looking that up here. I don't know here. I'm trying to find it. It's not working very great. Is this going to just end up being an elaborate tourist trap destination, big, stupid event? I'm so excited. I can't wait. I truly can't wait for this to happen. I just want to see what happens and what the fallout is going to be. It's very exciting to know that we have so many stupid freaking people. God, dude, what is going to happen? I'm so excited. Like I said, what preparation are they doing? How are they going to handle this? Are we just going to shoot on sight? Are we going to take them into custody? I don't know. It's very exciting. But so many people are convinced that they're going to have aliens to take home, and it's going to be their new pet and do their dishes and pay rent. So, yeah, there's that. I actually had a meme on Imgur go up to 3,900 upvotes that I made on this, so I'm pretty proud of that. That's a pretty big accomplishment on my part. So there are some good things coming out of it.
What news story is coming up right now? What's bothering you? What's got you interested?
I got one pulled up here. I didn't really read much about it. It's loading. One thing I wanted to touch on. I shared our video a little bit last week from the stuff we talked about after the Mandela effect. That being your AOC clip, which some people, amazing. It's amazing that some people want to defend her as much as they do. I'm not a fan. Even people that claim not to be fans want to defend her. well, the big gripe was, well, he wasn't answering the question that she was asking, because she was asking why are these people being separated that are entering legally? So his response was deflection, and his response was just general, and he didn't answer her question. She wasn't prepared to answer his question that wasn't a question. So that was the big gripe. What would be your response to that?
So she stopped asking question. The question, she was pretty clear on her questions, and she led him down a path of questioning of she wanted him to say zero tolerance. You could tell that's where she was going with it. And he said, yes, zero tolerance. Like, she was trying to put blame on him to start with, said, did you author this? And he said, no, I did not author it. She's like, did you sign it? He's like, yes, I signed it. And she led him down the path to that. She set him up and thought she was going to have some kind of gold mine. Like, here's what they do in these situations. Is they lead you down to where they know your only answer to a question. It's like a magician. What's a magician do with you? They'll eliminate. It's a deflection, and it's eliminating every option and answer you have available to you as you go down the road until you only have one thing left to say, and that's what the AOCs of the world do, is they get you down to that one last answer. But he had one she hadn't thought of. That's it. That's what happened. That's what all these do. And it's not AOC in general. That happens to Barack Obamas of the world. That happens to the Donald Trumps of the world, George Bushes of the world. It happens to all of them. They're these little tricksters. It's just AOC's too stupid and will say it, on television and on C-SPAN. That's my opinion.
I think yeah, that's 100% right, because it's not about getting your point across. It's not about trying to persuade the person on the other side of the aisle into thinking like you do. It's about looking good for yourself and trapping the other person into looking badly, so you look better.
Yeah, it's not a conversation. It's a make. Hey, I'm gonna make you look bad so I can look good and look like I have an attitude and shake my head and like point at dominance over you. No, stop it. You're a person. I'm a person. Let's talk about this. You have some things that are right. I have some things that are right. Let's meet in the middle somewhere. Where in the hell has this gone? Sorry, this is going to take me on a tangent now. Why? Everybody's bitching, and I'm sorry I'm bringing this up right now. This has been bothering me for a couple of days, and I've been drinking a little whiskey, but I gotta say it, on tensions between what I see on Fox News, what I see at CNN, what Donald Trump says, what these 4 little girls are saying. 4 women, whatever. Everybody's bitching about what the news is covering and how the news is portraying it, and everything comes back to CNN or Fox or MSNBC. Yet, it's not just normal day-to-day people. It is famous people, it's rich people. Everybody's bitching about this. The government's bitching about this. Donald Trump, for God's sakes, is bitching about this. Where's the media that just flat out says, hey, we're going to do a half-hour programming for Democrats and a half-hour programming for Republicans. And then we're going to do a half-hour talking to each other about what should be done. Where in the hell is that? Or do we just love the ratings so damn much and the commercial and revenue and the dip? Like, they are making us so stupid right now with all of this garbage that they're shoving down our face. Like, I don't understand it. Why does everybody want to keep bitching so much? Why don't you find a freaking solution to the goddamn problem and stop bitching so much and watching these stupid shows? I quit watching all of them. I can't stand it anymore. They're all so full of shit. You switch to one, switch to the other, switch to the other. I don't care if you're left, middle, center, or right, wherever the hell you want to go. They're all full of shit. Every goddamn one of them's full of shit.
Yeah, you're 100% right. No, you're 100% right. I can't understand. Like, this is how it was explained to me, because I've said this before. I don't get into it because you can't trust anybody. You can't find something that's actually neutral to report these issues without giving their commentary and their agenda push in the meantime, because that's the goal. That's the priority for everybody. All these news sources, and the response I'm given is, well, it's just your responsibility to weed through the bullshit, find the real news, and then decide for yourself. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. Why haven't we done anything about that? Because that is a frickin' problem. When we are. You hate Donald Trump all you want, but hashtag fake news, that's a real thing, and it has been a real thing for a long damn time. Guess what? He had the balls to say it at least. I mean, come on. It's true. We have been force-fed a bunch of agenda-pushing bullshit for far too long, and the general person is not going to want to do their research on both sides of the aisle news source, find the middle ground, do their research. No, nobody is doing that. The general population is not doing that. They are going to see the quick headline, and they're going to make their decision based off of that solely.
Well, as always, folks, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you joining in tonight. Like, share, subscribe. We are now available on Spotify. Working on getting us up on iTunes, as well as, of course, we're on the YouTube. So if you want to see us with video and see what we're talking about, of course, jump on. Again, like, share, subscribe. Especially if you're on YouTube, you got to make sure you hit that little bell in the bottom right corner. Otherwise, apparently, subscribing doesn't mean anything unless you do that. Thanks, Stephen Crowder, for teaching us that one. And we had some connection issues with Tony here at the end, so he's not able to say goodnight to you folks. But that's all right. We'll see you all next week with another awesome kick-ass episode. Look forward to hearing from you guys what you want to hear. Look forward to another fantastic week and hitting our first milestone of episode 10 as we round out the month of July here. We'll make sure it's something good for you folks. Again, have a great night. Love you. Bye.